What even is this thing? This big, bright, red wheel of death might look like something out of some awful horror flick when trains attack. But what the heck is it even for? Well, what's up, Hyce? And this is Guys, and we are once again here at the S&D Turret Museum in Golden, Colorado to talk about one of my favorite artifacts and how it operates, and talk a little bit about, gay, locomotive, cock, and ball door. Sure. That's right, because this thing is not just a giant wheel of death from a horror film. It's actually a giant wheel of death from a horror film. It's actually a giant wheel of death from a horror film. It's actually a giant wheel of death from a horror film. It's actually a giant wheel of death from a horror film. It's actually a giant wheel of death from a horror film. It's actually first way that railroads actually tended to plow snow is one that you wouldn't really think about. This is just the pilot. We've talked about pilots before on the channel. Check out the video if you'd like. But if the snow is wet enough and sticky enough, the pilot actually plows snow just fine.
But if it starts getting above the height of the pilot,
This doesn't work. The plow's gonna fucking pick at a joint, might pick a fucking switch and derail the fucking train. So you couldn't really get clear to the rail. So we had to come up with a special other piece of technology called a flutter, or in many cases a spreader. There's lots of different varieties of these,
to actually clear out the flange way so that the wheels could keep going. If the snow was light enough and not too dense of ice,
a lot of times the flanges plow. Now you'll note that this isn't attached to a locomotive, although many times they were. This one is attached to a locomotive, just a big locomotive. The gondola could be loaded up with all kinds of weight to help prevent this thing from derailing as they shoved it through the snow and cleared things. And this was designed for pushing out a ton of snow out of the way, obviously with how tall it is. I mean, I'm 6 foot plus in my boots. And yeah, that's a big plow. But the reason for this wedge plow's existence is really kind of an interesting transitory thing with steam locomotives and steam technology. A lot of the steam locomotives in the late 1800s, early 1900s had very small frames, and snowbucking was well renowned for ruining those frames. Take a look at these frames from right outside the number 20. They also derailed here a bunch and rolled over and stuff, so that's not just snow fighting, but engines that fought snow tended to have a pretty sad time. So maybe railroads said, okay, well, we'll just put the plow in something sacrificial like a gondola and keep our locomotives safe. But when this was not enough, we finally arrived at the rotary snowplow. Let's go take a look.